Have you ever called out to work to avoid a meeting or know someone who has? And then you spend the day on the couch watching Netflix. That's not just escape maintained behavior, that's escape and access to an activity. Now, think about our learners. What if we've been designing interventions for only part of the function? What if we're missing the other reinforcers that maintain the behavior? Today, I'm going to show you how to uncover all the maintaining variables so your interventions actually work. I'm Amelia Dalfonts, BCBA for almost a decade and co-founder of Master ABA. We've helped thousands of behavior analysts level up their skills with practical real-world CEUs. And I've helped many of them turn their knowledge into sellout courses and valuable resources. If you're a BCBA or a clinic owner, trying to train parents effectively, this is going to save you months of trial and error. Let's start with a truth that a lot of BCBAs don't like to admit. ABC data is helpful, but it's not the full picture. Early in my career, I tracked a client's tantrums for weeks. The data screamed escape. He screamed during circle time, during cleanup, during anything even remotely demanding. I built an escape-based intervention and nothing changed. Why was that? Because I was only looking at half the picture. Every time he left the table, he went straight to his favorite cars. So yes, he was escaping the tasks, but he was also getting something that he really enjoyed. That second function mattered just as much as the first. ABC data is a great starting point, but it's hypothesis building, not proof. I use it to ask better questions, not to finalize my answers. When I look at ABC data now, I always ask, what else might be going on? Is this child just escaping, or are they also getting access to attention, tangibles, or maybe sensory input? This is exactly why Dr. Hanley's approach to synthesized analysis is so powerful, because it mirrors the real world mix of reinforcers that kids experience every day. Once you identify all the maintaining variables, then and only then should you even think about writing a behavior plan. Have you ever misidentified a function based only on ABC data? If you have, you're not alone. Most of us have done that at some point. ABC data alone can't tell you the whole story. It leads us to oversimplify the contingencies. That brings us to one of the most common traps, which is labeling everything as escape or attention. These are the functions that show up most in the ABC data. I'll give you a perfect example. I worked with a preschooler that we'll call Oliver, who refused everything. If I asked him to pick up a toy, he'd tantrum. If I asked him to sit, he'd scream. If I asked him to do something that he preferred, like play with Thomas the Tank Engine, he'd also have a tantrum. Everyone labeled him as non-compliant and assumed escape was maintaining his behavior. But when I started giving him choices, do you want to open the door or do you want me to open it? His cooperation skyrocketed. His real motivation wasn't avoiding tasks at all. He wanted control over his environment. That's a completely different function and not one of the traditional 4 functions. It changed how we intervened. Here's the thing, not all task refusal is about escape. Sometimes kids refuse because they want attention. Sometimes because they want a tangible. Sometimes because they want to feel in control. This last one is especially true for children with high anxiety or who fit the PDA profile. When you see a child refuse a task, don't just slap the escape label on it. Ask yourself, what are they getting out of this? What are they escaping? And are they gaining something at the same time? Cipani's classification system is brilliant for this because it forces you to get specific. Then you can test your assumptions one by one until you're sure you're right. That's how you create interventions that actually work. So stay with me because I'm going to tell you a quick parent story at the end that still gives me chills because the only thing we changed was how we described the function, and it completely flipped her son's behavior and her outlook on parenting. And that's why we need more precision. Generic labels won't cut it. Let me show you a system that gives you that clarity without the guesswork. When I switched to Cipani's system, everything about my approach to writing behavior plans changed. I had a child whose aggression everyone called escape maintained, but when I dug into Cipani's categories, I realized it wasn't that simple. His aggression was socially mediated escape from difficult tasks and socially mediated access to tangibles. We had been targeting only escape, and of course, nothing worked. Once we combined skill building to reduce task difficulty and use differential reinforcement for requesting tangibles, the aggression decreased almost immediately. Cipani's system gives you structure, but here's the key. Don't treat each function in isolation. Behavior doesn't happen in neat little boxes, and neither should our behavior plans. The intervention only works when it mirrors the real life mix of reinforcers the child actually experiences. Now, here's the catch. Even the best analysis means nothing if we can't communicate it to parents in a way that makes sense. So let's work on that next. I had a mom who was convinced her son's hitting was all attention seeking. She'd say, he just wants me to look at him. So every time he hit, she scolded him and redirected him to play with his toys. But when we looked closer, we realized he was also hitting to get access to his favorite toys, which she would give him to redirect that behavior. So the function wasn't just attention, it was attention and tangibles. Once she understood that, we replaced hitting with functional communication for both needs, and the behavior diminished pretty quickly. Parents don't need behavior analytic jargon, they need clarity. I explain it to them like this. Your child is doing this to get this and this. Then I show them what a replacement behavior looks like, something the child can do instead of the challenging behavior that gets them the same results. But here's the hard part. It only works if they consistently reward the new behavior and reduce the rewards for the old ones. That takes coaching and follow-up. And when parents do it right, the change can feel almost magical. Remember that story I mentioned earlier? This one still gives me chills. I worked with a mom who had basically given up. Her son was aggressive, and she thought it was just who he was. We didn't change her intervention plan at first. We only changed how we described the function. Instead of saying he's hitting for attention, we reframed it as he's trying to get connection, but he doesn't know how to ask. That one shift changed everything for her. She stopped seeing him as defiant and started seeing him as a kid who needed help connecting. Her follow-through improved almost overnight, and his aggression started to drop within the week. Sometimes the words we use matter more than we realize. If you want a plug-and-play parent training tool that already accounts for multiply controlled behavior, check out the Achieve Parent Training Curriculum. The link's in the description.